Hey Adventurers, so today is going to be another book review. This is going to be for Operation Grendel by Daniel Schwabauer. This is one that we actually already have a review for on the channel. Kate read this 2020, I think, and reviewed it back then, so I'll have a link up in the corner for that if you want to go check that out. This is a sci-fi story. I haven't read a ton of sci-fi, but I've been trying to get into it, and this is one that Kate was like, alright, you've got to read this one, and so I finally read it. It's also very heavily focused on journalism, on war, and telling a war story, but it's also mind-bending in a way that was kind of rather unexpected. You don't fully understand what's going on until the end, and then you're just like, wait, really? What? We'll get right into the review here. Operation Grendel is a sci-fi book that tells the story of a journalist who wants to tell the best war story possible about the current ongoing war. The Grendels, as they're called, are the enemy, and they use a mind control worm tactic that infiltrates someone and gives them everything they think they want. The journalist is hired to convince several of the outer worlds that it is in their best interests to surrender to the Grendels. But there is so much more to it than just that. Honestly, I was really not terribly invested in this story for about the first 2/3 of the book. Really only enough to keep reading. But I was not thinking that I loved the book when I came to the end. The last third of the book, though, really ramped it up, and questions started to be answered, more questions were being posed, character arcs were becoming clear, and the story just started to make sense, and it started to work a lot better for me, except that you really don't know anything at that point still. Everything is set up for in earlier chapters, but the ending is still completely unexpected and probably one of the biggest twists that I've ever come across, while still being executed well and not just a twist for the sake of a twist. It actually fit the story and had been set up for. There is a lot of focus on propaganda and truth and what that means, especially in a wartime situation, but also just for the everyday lives of people. How does this affect their lives? The focus on the psychological operations is kind of the underlying storyline, though it definitely isn't hid or obscured to the reader. It is obvious, but the characters don't fully understand it and have to come to that understanding throughout the story. I can't say I particularly loved the writing style, but it is very easy to hear the authorial voice for this book. In fact, for the first half of the book, I couldn't not read the story and hear Daniel Schwabauer talking. That isn't necessarily a bad thing, it's just the way that it is. Overall, it's a pretty interesting sci-fi and war story, and though it probably wouldn't be most people's favorite sci-fi, I think a lot of readers could find something very interesting in it. So that is my review for Operation Grendel by Daniel Schwabauer. I still haven't read a ton of sci-fi at this point, but this was a good one for me just to include in my, I guess, stepping stones of where to go with sci-fi when it's not terribly heavy on the science fiction concepts. There are definitely some of those there, and I do enjoy reading that stuff, but it wasn't so heavily feeling like sci-fi that I was turned off by that. And I think that as I continue to read sci-fi, I will find that that's not the case. It's just lingering effects of not liking Star Trek. So anyways, thank you guys for watching an Erudite Adventure. We post videos every Monday and Thursday and have our social medias linked in the description down below. We will see you guys again soon. Stay warm.